As may be somewhat obvious to anybody who has watched a few of my videos, I am a biologist who is fond of Lovecraftian fiction. And now these are not my only interests by any means, but they are significant. All the more so as they tend to go hand in hand. When I was young, I remember delighting in any fiction which involved strange creatures of one sort or another. It might have been speculative biology, or monster movies, or the kinds of short stories once published in Weird Tales. I confess I have not yet outgrown this fondness. Hopefully I never will. Still, I should probably note that such interests have given me a rather odd outlook on horror films. If there were monsters involved, I was watching them rather than the human characters. For me, the monsters were the main characters of interest. Thus, slasher movies always struck me as rather boring. Just another human with a diseased mind wreaking havoc on hapless victims. Hardly worth paying attention to. On the other hand, show me an eldritch alien from the stars, an unknown beast from dark corners of the world, even a supernatural creature from beyond reality itself. Whether cryptid or catastrophe, myth or monstrosity, legend or liminal leviathan, I was interested. Captivated. One might well imagine my enjoyment as I found everyday monsters hidden away in biological textbooks. Look at a simple insect up close and you will find a creature utterly different to human expectations. A thing that wears its skeleton externally, has a nerve cord running down its belly, breathes from holes down its sides, and sees the world through a mosaic of faceted eyes. A creature that, in many cases, develops from a larval stage that bears almost no resemblance to its adult form. Compare a maggot and a fly, or a caterpillar and a moth, or a grub and a beetle. One could scarcely believe such disparate forms were aspects of the same creature. But enough of my rambling. It is sufficient to say that I have biological interests that have greatly influenced my fictional pursuits. So I thought I might take the time to explore some of these patterns and connections just for fun. So let us start first with biology and move on from there. At the risk of making a rather obvious statement, biology is the study of life. Now, life is a very complicated thing, with almost innumerable variations upon a few central themes. Life as we know it, at least, is based upon things like a watery medium, carbon-based macromolecules, and cellular structures defined by phospholipid membranes. Organic polymers like DNA, RNA, and proteins feature prominently and form the basis of much of the structure and function in living systems. Within such basic ground rules, a dazzling variety of forms can be found. Beyond this, every living creature is deeply and subtly connected with other living creatures and its environment. Life is woven into intricate webs of almost maddening complexity. Indeed, much of biology consists of shortcuts and generalizations, as a complete comprehension of biological complexity is beyond the reach of the human mind. In any case, with such a variety of forms and so many different sorts of life cycles and associations, it is probably inevitable that at least some of life's patterns will be rather disturbing to human sensibilities. This is where the monsters come in. Now, a monster is a thing that is often easily recognized, but not so easily defined. Setting aside the human types of monster, that is, a person who is particularly evil or psychopathic, let us narrow our focus to monstrous creatures. By some accounts, the term monster is derived from the Latin word monstrum, which more or less means something like a portent or an omen. Something supernatural, possibly divine, possibly infernal. There is the implication of something repulsive or terrifying. A monstrous creature often deviates from proper morphology, having some manner of deformity. It is also not uncommon for a monster to be larger than its more normal contemporaries. So with such nebulous definitions in mind, let us look once more at the natural world. There are a great many forms of life that might easily seem monstrous to human eyes. Deviations and divergences from what we consider to be sane and reasonable patterns of existence. As it turns out, this is especially common in the ocean. After all, most humans don't explore too deeply into the marine realms, as it is not a place we are adapted to survive in for more than brief excursions. So it is unfamiliar, and the creatures adapted to live in such a place will have inevitable differences to what we are more familiar with. One need only look at something like an octopus, a crab, or a sea star to find a creature that differs wildly from what most people would regard as a normal animal. This brings us along to the Lovecraftian monster, the typical eldritch horror, usually a creature of slime or tentacles or strange symmetries or deformed aspect. I think it is no accident that so many of these particular monsters borrow their appearances from marine life. The ocean itself can be terrifying in its way. Thalassophobia is not entirely unwarranted at times. Imagine being alone in a small rowboat with a mile or two of water beneath you, dark and deep, concealing any number of unknown forms of life. There might easily be leviathans in that unknown abyss, or creatures that defy every human expectation. A suitable stand-in for a vast dark cosmos wherein humanity itself is just a tiny spark adrift in the void. A central concept of cosmic horror. Cosmic horror is an interesting genre of fiction. Much of the dread seems to be centered around the idea of human insignificance within the greater cosmos. This implies a certain futility to our existence, along with the inevitability of unpleasant things happening for no good reason. Sounds a bit like everyday life, if I'm being honest. Still, this futility, this dread, this pernicious nihilism depends upon a fairly common human perspective, the oft unspoken idea that we are at the center of the universe. Now, this makes a lot of sense when you think about it. Every person is essentially confined within their own heads, after all. Our perceptions of the surrounding universe are just that, perceptions. An imperfect model of the actual reality about us. Our own mind is the only mind we are directly aware of, and even then, we're really only aware of a small fraction of our own mental processes. Everybody else, we have to infer from our guesswork. After all, if you're listening to this right now, you're hearing an electronic simulation of my voice, which was in turn provided by pressure waves in the air vibrating a microphone's more delicate mechanisms. This was in turn generated by a series of controlled muscle contractions within my respiratory system, ultimately guided by the precise firing of a legion of neurons within my cerebral cortex. Yet, despite the fact that you are not directly reading my mind, it is my hope that your own mind is making a decent approximation of my thoughts as you listen to these various noises. Or should I say, as the pressure waves striking your eardrums set off a series of agitations of tiny hair cells within your inner ear, leading to a cascade of neural signals interpreted by your own cerebral cortex. Okay, I think we've gotten a bit far afield here. The point is simply this. We are forever stuck within our own heads to some degree, and it takes effort to truly see anything beyond ourselves. Thus, it is very, very easy for anybody to think of themselves as the center of the universe, on an unconscious level at least. To have this implicit assumption overturned is unpleasant and often disturbing. I believe that is what gives the cosmic horror genre its sting. However, what happens if we approach such stories already realizing that we are not in fact the center of everything? We might encounter tales of a cosmos far larger and more magnificent than we could have imagined. There is an almost exultant glory in even a glimpse of the true beauty and grandeur of creation. Thus, cosmic horror has a curious secondary aspect which might be described as cosmic wonder, or even, maybe, cosmic adventure. I suppose that might be why I made this channel in the first place. The living world is filled with wonders, but many of them are very odd to human eyes. There is something to be said for sharing the weird tales of nature. That said, as remarkable as reality can be, there is an undeniable allure in dreaming as well. Thus the liminal biome series I've been making in more recent days. A series of what-ifs, strange realms that draw inspiration from various fictional genres as well as actual biological phenomena. Hopefully people are enjoying these little misadventures as well as the more grounded non-fiction I started the channel with. Anyway, I suppose I've rambled on long enough, at least for now. I might try making a bit of fairly random content as I prepare for the next series of liminal biome videos. Just something a bit different to keep things from becoming too routine or predictable. We'll see what happens one way or the other. For now, I thank you for listening and hope you have enjoyed your visit. please, by all means, look around the channel if you like and see what other madness I might have on hand.